Kehinde Wiley grew up in south-central LA in an erudite, destitute family. His father returned to Africa before he was born. His mother, a grad student in African linguistics, raised them alone. To keep them out of gangs, she enrolled her children in after-school art classes. Wiley went on to study at Yale and the Harlem Institute. The inciting incident for his unique style was a crumpled mugshot found on the street in Harlem. Seen through his lens, the mugshot became a portrait. What is portraiture, he says? It's choice, the ability to position your body in the world for the world to celebrate you on your own terms. This urge to celebrate his own terms led him to co-opt the traditional stylings of classical European art and recast them with subjects found on the street of the world. Though he has painted many famous people, among them former President Barack Obama, LL Cool J, and Nick Cave, to name a few, his paintings are more often street-cast according to instinct and what he describes as his gay sensibility. He looks for attitude, swagger, and pride over physical beauty. Wiley's paintings are photorealistic, often far more realistic than their classical source materials. Gone are the sfumato and obscuring softness of features. His goal is not to render beautiful, but to render beautifully. Many, if not most of his paintings are buoyant retreads of famous artworks by Gainsborough, David, and other masters. His use of ethnic minorities subverts the original iconology of power. In bluff, virile poses, often astride powerful horses, these figures, so victimized and disenfranchised in their current culture, assume a stature and dignity of which their real lives rob them. His use of form, particularly mass, color, light, and space, is compelling. The massive scale of his work gives them a natural gravitas, abetted by his use of vibrant color. The flowers and patterns in the background and leaking into the foreground complement the flashy attire and display of material consumption evident in hip-hop culture, he says. In his World Stage series, his backgrounds are taken not from the classical milieu he uses for his American paintings, but from the textiles and patterns of the cultures his subjects inhabit, symbolizing their place in that culture. The loud prints of the Brazilian favelas and African textiles push the figures to the foreground. His use of light is interesting, too. The lack of shadow interaction between background and foreground detaches the figures from the flat decorative plane, giving the subjects a dimensional, luminous quality. Wiley's ideology can be hard to pin down. He says of his works alternately that he wishes to embody the part of the Nigerian trickster god and to bring unbalance, confusion, and chance to his art, that his motives are simply sexual, and that he wishes to interrogate the notion of the master painter, at once critical and complicit. He says that his works quote historical sources and position young black men within that field of power. All of this can be true, but it requires the viewer to absorb and evaluate each work for themselves. Yet Wiley's paintings are highly symbolic. The symbolism of his prone paintings are especially poignant. Historically, he says, we're used to seeing female figures in repose. There's a type of powerlessness with regard to being thrown off your feet, and in that sense, the power exchange can be codified as an erotic moment. Critics have both lauded and criticized him for the queering of classical art and of his male subjects. His work is at once hypermasculine and deeply sensitive, once again challenging a cultural divide. The work of Kehinde Wiley is visually arresting and deeply moving on many levels. His keen eye does more than just appropriate artistic styles of the past. As Hexall says in his article In the Spirit of Negritude, much like the intellectuals of negritude who attempted to reimagine notions of blackness, Wiley reclaims the African subject in portraits that contest traditional, colonial, and contemporary histories. The scale and grandeur of his work lends greatness to subjects that may never know it in reality. It is a work of hope, beauty, and keen social criticism.